Hello my loves, welcome back to Zeke's Lunchbox. Today we're going to go through all of my favorite art tools that I use pretty consistently. I'm not one of those artists that uses just one particular medium. I lose interest really quickly, so I like to play around with lots of different mediums. And I pretty much have a routine of using acrylic paint and then digital mediums to do my finished artworks. And then for playing around and experimentation, I have my sketchbook mediums. So that is what we're going to go through today. I will have all the timestamps down below for whatever medium you guys are interested in. So just to clarify, the art tools that we are going to go through today are digital art tools, acrylic painting tools, and sketchbook paper drawing tools. I get lots of people asking all the time, sliding into DMs, commenting, asking what mediums I'm using because it can be really elusive and kind of confusing because I use a lot, and I just want this video to be like the place that I send people to be like, okay, here's the list of everything, go forth. If you're interested in buying any of the materials that I am talking about in this video, I will have that in the description box below. Big fat list of everything I'm going to talk about, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, I'm going to start off with acrylic paint first. I miss painting with acrylic so badly. For those of you who are new here, I've been working on a tarot card deck where I paint 78 artworks. Some of them are acrylic, some of them are digital. And recently, just to finish the project, I've switched over to digital to finish the project. And it's been a very long time since I've painted with acrylic. But that being said, I use the same tools all the time for acrylic painting. So I just want to show you guys what I use so you know what paint to use, you know what tools to use, and you can get to painting. The very first thing that we're going to talk about is this flat Holcroft brush. I really like these short brushes for getting my very first couple of layers on. I need to be really aggressive, and normally things with like a long handle, it starts to really hurt my wrist, and you guys, your wrist is very, very important when you're an artist. You need to treat this part of your whole body like you are an athlete and treat it well. So if you're getting any sort of sprain or strain whatsoever, you need to stop and change the tool or position or whatever. Something needs to change. That's why this brush is really good for your initial layer, putting your gesso on. When you start a painting, no matter what medium, you need to prep your canvas, whether it's paper, canvas, wood. You need to do some kind of preparation because the stuff that comes straight out of the box, straight out of the store, is just a little too fresh, and you need to roughen it up a bit just so your paint can have something to grip to. That's why this brush here is amazing for that. Okay, next thing that's essential is gesso. Yes, you have to use gesso. Everybody who paints with acrylic, just paints with any sort of medium, you need to, again, prepare your canvas. You don't have to get the expensive gesso. I use this brand, Matisse, because this is readily available in Australia because it is an Australian brand. So this paint here, I have no complaints. The gesso that normally comes on those like store-bought canvases is real rough and real nasty, and you need to put a proper layer of gesso on because your paint is going to get eaten up by your canvas or whatever you were painting on, and you're going to do all that hard work for your paint to be eaten, for your painting to not last as long. Trust me, gesso is essential. Okay, next up, the acrylic paint that I use, Matisse Structure, not Matisse Flow. That stuff's still fine, but I like it chunky, I like it thick, and this is the paint that is tried and true for me. I use it for all of my paintings, super pigmented. It doesn't dry super quickly, so there is a little bit of time for you to do some blending. I have a couple of acrylic blending videos if you are interested in that. I will have that down in the description box if you want to know how to blend with acrylic paint. 70 different tubes of this paint. Again, Matisse is an Australian brand, but I do recommend any acrylic paint that's like high viscous, and really when it comes to paint, you get what you pay for. The expensive acrylic paint, you know, that's like $15 a tube, it's that price for a reason. So if you guys want to get a little bit better and really up your acrylic painting game, I recommend just investing in some really good paint, because it's true, the paint really is the difference between like kind of rough, not so good acrylic painting to the really fantastic acrylic painting. Now, the last item I'm going to talk about with acrylic painting, and one of my favorite things I love to paint on, is odd-shaped canvases. Now, I've got all of my canvases tucked away in my closet, but I will show you guys on screen what I'm talking about. For me, I find that the odd-shaped canvases are a really interesting challenge for compositional purposes. Love painting with hexagonal canvases, heart-shaped canvases, circle canvases. Not only do I like the challenge of it pushing me with composition, but I also really like the way it looks on a wall. You know, a lot of artworks are rectangles and squares, and we're very used to seeing that on walls and on surfaces, and for me it just like breaks it up. It just gives a little bit more visual interest, especially when you have a lot of different artworks in your home, and it just makes it different, you know? She pops. Now, I have had a lot of people who've asked, like, they don't know where to get their odd-shaped canvases. I will have those down linked in the description. But ask your local art stores, see if they have anything or if they can order it in, because sometimes they can order in particular items for you. You have to buy a fair amount, you can't just buy one. But yeah, it's worth asking your local shops, and also you're supporting your local art stores as well that very, very much need your business. And then somebody who doesn't need your business, but I will link them down in the description box below, is Amazon. Look, Amazon's got it all. They also have odd-shaped canvases. I have found a link to a place that sells a pack of odd-shaped canvases, and I will have that linked in the description below. But go to your art store first, please. Okay, we're gonna move on to sketchbook stuff. Okay, so sketchbook art tools, my favorite sketchbook art tools. First of all, we gotta talk about the sketchbook, obvi. So, the sketchbook that I have been using for the last couple of years has been Handbook Co. By the way, if you are new here, or if you're a regular viewer who hasn't caught up in quite some time, I have a whole sketchbook playlist down in the description box where you can see old sketchbook tours, as well as videos where I draw in my sketchbook. Lots of tasty sketchbook playing, experimenting videos. Ultimately, it's made for really heavy duty painting. I soak the heck out of my pages. So over here I've used watercolor mediums. I dunk my pages like crazy, so I need paper that can withstand that. I've had no problem with any sort of transfer to the other side. The paper is really good quality. Another thing that I love about the sketchbook, lays nice and flat, so you can you know, live in the moment and sketch throughout the whole spread, and you don't have to get, you know, stuck halfway through with that ditch in the middle or with spirals down the middle. I really like the idea of like just going wild with like a whole spread. The bigger the better for me. Also comes with a little bookmark, really good quality elastic plastic book holder. I don't know what this is called in book terms. If you know, tell me. This elastic that like helps you close your book. Does this have an official name? Let me know, comment below. Another thing that it has is a little pocket on the back, so you can put any like little papers that you want. I like to collage every now and then, so I like to collect some papers and little cards, bits and bobs here, and shove them in the back, save them for later. Such a good sketchbook, really good quality, really amazing. This is my third one, so that's telling you something. Two downsides to this sketchbook is that it's super expensive. That being said, it takes me a year to fill these up. Doesn't bother me too much. Also, I do this for a living, so you know, it's an expense that I'm okay to pay for. And another thing is, it's not actually very good for sketching. It's really good for painting. That's what I've done a lot of in this sketchbook. But when it comes to sketching, it's just a little bit too rough, and I have found that my pencil marks eventually just kind of fade away and get really washed out. So I don't really recommend it for sketching, and that's why I have this sketchbook, which is my rough, dirty, fast and cheap sketchbook. I think this is just, what is this? This is just a cheap Mont Marte sketchbook. I think it's like $15, $10 at the art store. Super cheap. Massive. I think there's like 100, 150, about 100 pages. No, I don't know. It's got a lot of pages. Another thing that I really look for is, again, how flat does it lay out. I think for $15, $20, it's pretty good for that. And I've been using the sketchbook a lot for just pencil, because sometimes I don't want to paint, I just need to draw something really quickly, you know. So I've been taking it to a lot of life drawing, and it's been perfect for life drawing. Because it is cheap, I don't mind just doing these like nothing sort of sketches. For me, I don't feel precious about ruining this one because it's not the expensive one, you know. I'm happy to trash this one. Moving on to what I paint with in my sketchbooks. A couple of years ago, I invested in one of these tins to house all of my watercolor palettes. This is 4 different palettes that I've popped into one. Again, everything's down in the description box below, so go and check that out. These are the Prima Marketing watercolor palettes in a bunch of different flavors. I really liked the idea of all the little palettes being curated. That being said, is it the best watercolor in the world? It's okay. I think I definitely want to invest in getting watercolor that's like a tiny bit more expensive, because after a while this stuff does have that pulled edge when it dries, and I would like something that doesn't have that, just as an option for when I am painting with watercolor. If I need to use watercolor in my sketchbook, which I use very regularly, that's pretty much the only palette I use. Moving on, a couple months ago, I just decided to bite the bullet and buy a bunch of Holbein Acryla gouache paints. I've been in love ever since. This is such unique paint because it's like a combination of poster paint, acrylic paint, a bit of watercolor if you water it down. It's very versatile. It can be very opaque and it can be very transparent if you need it to be. Pigments cannot be beat. It's excellent paint. There's a reason why so many artists use this paint. Now, if you're used to traditional gouache, the more chalky gouache, it's very different from that. You can't reactivate it. It's similar to acrylic paint where once it dries, you're not going to be able to reactivate it. If you're the sort of artist who doesn't need to reactivate your gouache paint, then this is perfect. Very pigmented. It's excellent. I like to use it as a topper for a lot of my pieces. Here is an example of the sort of pigmentation that you can get from acrylic gouache. Next up, another thing that I bought a couple of months ago were a big pack of Posca markers. I've got all of my markers in this box over here, and for me the Poscas have been such a game changer. I really love the speed of working with Posca markers. Again, I like to use them as a topper to like really push a big flat block of color into my pieces. So usually I'll start off with a bit of watercolor just to get like an idea of where I want to place my colors. I may go in with the acrylic gouache, and then I top it off with these bad boys because there's something so satisfying about how instant Posca markers are. I definitely want to invest and get some more fine lined Posca markers just for those like tiny little details like the flicks of the eyelash, the highlights in the lips. Number one, I absolutely love Posca markers. Okay, moving on to what I actually use to paint with. Strongly recommend getting a ceramic palette if you're painting with quite small mediums like in a sketchbook. Ceramic, for me, it just feels a lot more hefty because it does have weight. So when you're trying to mix colors, it's not moving around like a light little plastic palette. And also the best thing is you just wash it off and then you have a brand new fresh palette. Of course, I wanted to get a palette that was really cute and aesthetic, so that's why I got a little flower palette. And all those items are in the description if you are interested, you guys. Okay, that's it for all the sketchbook mediums. Let's move on to digital mediums. All right, so digital art mediums. For context on what I use for digital painting, my favorite tablet that I've ever used, it trumps the iPad Pro completely. I don't see how anything can beat it except if I, you know, go a size up, and the pros use it for a reason. A Cintiq Wacom. Look, it's expensive, but I do this for a living, so I have the big boy because I gotta do big professional drawings. Before, I used to use the iPad Pro when I would do lots of sketching and drafting. For me, the sheer scale of the screen is just too small for my needs. Granted, I only have the smaller sized iPad and I don't have the larger one, so that does make a difference. But when I was researching what tablet I wanted to get, you can't beat a big screen. Like, working bigger is always better when you're an artist. I like to sit at a desk when I make work. I know a couple of people like to, you know, be sitting on their couch with their iPad and drawing. That's just not for me. For me, it feels too casual, and I like to really separate my leisure time with my work time, and that's why the Wacom Cintiq is the one for me. I love it so much. The efficiency of it has just been amazing. It's the industry standard tablet for a reason. The price is there for a reason, and I'm here to tell you that I'm repping it, okay? Now, what I use to draw on my tablet with the program that I use is Clip Studio Paint. I will have a link for that down in the description box. Clip Studio for me is one, a lot more affordable compared to Photoshop. I still have Photoshop nonetheless. Clip Studio Paint is made specifically for making art, and Photoshop has more of a multi-use, so I really needed something that was very specifically for painting. I don't know why, the brushes are just a little bit more fluid. It just feels more like the real deal. I've never looked back. Those are my two digital mediums that I cannot live without. But that does take me to a couple of new items that I've been playing around with that I've had a lot of fun with. I recently got a little mini keyboard. I have my main, just a regular keyboard, and then this mini keyboard separately for my two different screens. I bought this one because it lights up as a rainbow, and that's really fun and aesthetic to me. Also, it's a lot easier having less quick keys to choose from when I am painting, so my hand isn't reaching across the whole keyboard and my hand can just be in like one stagnant place. And this has made drawing so much quicker because my hand isn't getting lost and I'm not accidentally clicking the wrong quick key. It's just so much better. And also the rainbow always makes me really happy. What can I say? I'm a simple gal. Another thing that's relatively new that I've been playing around with that has made my art making that much more efficient is this toolbox. Full discretion, I was sent this toolbox, not sponsored. I was just sent the item, but I have been having an absolute blast using it because these little, it comes with a bunch of little knobs and other quick keys and other buttons. I programmed them all to change the scale of my brush, and it's so much quicker just like spinning a dial rather than like clicking a bunch of keys. And I know it seems crazy that you're saving that like 1 second, but when you're drawing and you're really on a roll, you just want things to like be instant. It just makes it a lot more intuitive. The flow is a lot better. I'm not getting frustrated because I've got like a clunky setup or like I've pressed the wrong button. It's just way easier to just, you know, if I want to make my brush a little bit bigger, it just goes whoop. So much more efficient, truly. It seems ridiculous having, and really excessive to have these two things, but they make the efficiency of painting so much quicker and so much more enjoyable. So highly recommend. Okay, and the last thing I'm gonna recommend for my favorite art tools is a little tiny nib that goes on the end of my Apple Pencil. You guys may have seen these advertised all across social media. They're meant to give your Apple Pencil just a little bit more grip, so when you put your pencil onto the glass, it doesn't slip and slide, and you just have that tiny little bit of friction that makes it feel like you're drawing with the real deal. It's crazy how a tiny little piece of plastic can make a big difference, but I really rep it. It did take me a moment to get used to it because I was so used to working with the Apple Pencil, but once I did get used to it after a couple of hours with it, it was like, I can't go back. So I will have that down in the link below as well, and that's it, you guys. It's a big, long list. Now, I've spent the last couple of years collecting all of these items, so I'm not saying that you need to have any of these, but, you know, if you're watching and you're like, ooh, that might help, and I'm pretty interested in grabbing that, that's what this video is for. That was a whole lot of talking. Okay, you guys, that comes to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. Seriously, subscribe. When I look at my stats, only about half the viewers are subscribed, so, you know, even if 10% of you guys subscribe, that's gonna make a massive difference. So subscribe to see more videos like this. I will link below a bunch of other videos that I've made that are similar to this from previous years. All right, I will see you in the next video next week. The tarot card project's going along for everybody who's been watching for years on end. Project is going really well. Mystery item here that I'm shooting today. Okay, you guys, I will see you next week. Bye.